and welcome to Project Hospital, a hospital management game. I find the game to be nicely balanced. It's a little more realistic than Two Point Hospital as far as, or like maybe not real, well, definitely more realistic. You got to look more into the diseases and whatnot. I would recommend that if you're just learning, play the 3 tutorials. You can see I haven't done the campaigns yet because, to be honest, just doing a sandbox is pretty fun. And while I don't doubt that these provide different challenges, there's still plenty to learn and do just in sandbox mode. As far as what you choose, I think it's, more up to you. You could, there's no real rules, more about how you'd want your hospital to look. If you pick a smaller one, you'll be a little bit, obviously, I think, more constrained in space, but you will also be a little more inclined to build a taller hospital if it gets pretty big. But generally speaking, I think there's plenty of room in a 64. We'll do a 96 by 96 just so that we're not constrained. I like this one. It kind of keeps that parking lot out of the way. So let's go ahead and start this pretty much all on the default setting. So here we are in the game, and we have more or less, just in pause mode there. Down here, you have each of your hospital departments. We don't have any, so they're all grayed out, but this would be the emergency department. Each department has a certain set of criteria. The rooms that are in red here are the ones that are required to even call it a department. So you don't have to have a common room, which is a room where the staff can go and get some coffee. Cleaning closet, again, in a sense, you don't have to have it, though your hospital will become filthy. And a lab, you really kind of need to have that lab, but you don't need it to actually call it a department. And that helps you. You'll see in the beginning here, when we don't have too much money, we'll get started with a smaller, just the minimum rooms that we need just to get things flowing. And you'll kind of step through that with each department. Radiology will need something similar. Radiology is a little bit different. There's 2 different departments here that I would call support departments. You really don't necessarily have patients that are assigned to the radiology department. They're just sent to radiology for the different testing rooms here. And same thing with the intensive care. Now, you do have people in the intensive care unit. However, all of their other procedures happen outside of it. This is sort of just a department that helps keep them alive. If you don't have one of these, you'll lose some patients, and it's all about making money, right? So if you don't have one, the patients have to go to some place with an intensive care unit. But at the end of the day, you don't make any money, particularly directly for having an intensive care unit. They still have to be treated in one of these other departments. I would imagine the way the game leads you, the next department would be a general surgery. And this, is the first of these remaining 5 departments. And each one of them, as you'll see shortly, is pretty similar. So you need to have the same things. Once we unlock this hospitalization, you'll see you have an operating room and, other things that you need to put in place to have it a full surgery department. And then each one of these follows the same pattern for the most part as the surgery department, where you start out with a general, smaller, surgery office. They can do some minor things, and you have to expand it to hospitalization. But I'll show you that later. The point here is you have these different departments. Down here you have some different, you can take a look at how each of the departments doing. Nothing too dramatic there. These buttons are the same ones down in the bottom left. Eventually we'll be able to get some ambulances. Right now we can't. Ambulances are purchased and then placed in the parking lot here. And then when they go out, get a patient, they'll come back and they'll drop them off right here. So in the near future, our emergency department will be right here. And you'll have to have a certain kind of room to be able to accept most of the people from the ambulance anyway. But we'll have that pretty shortly. Well, in a few hours, real life. Each insurance company will send patients to us. Nobody will send any now because we don't have any, we don't have a hospital yet, but you can see your budget. Really, it's almost a little silly to have today's. You'll find yourself looking at yesterday's to try to gauge where you'll be today. And I'll show you why that is at some point. And some different stats. I look at this once in a while. It's it's fine. I don't know. It doesn't really tell me that much about what I need to know. If there's a problem with the game, it's a little hard to see the status of different things. Like, are they busy? Some of it's a little bit easier, but some rooms, you just kind of have to go look throughout the day to see if they're overworked or not. And I'll talk about that when we get there. All right, so I've delayed enough. The game has 3 different modes, because you can see now we're in game mode, and that would be if we had anything happening and we weren't paused, we would be continuing on. Building mode is, the next mode here, and it's pretty obvious. You can build various different things. I think you'll figure that out for yourself. Plus, I'll show you the different things as we start building. And the other one is management mode, and this is an important mode. This is as we get the various different departments. You can see because we're down here selected, it shows us what's going on. If I come here and switch, it switches over to emergency mode, which is really where we want to get started. If nothing else, because, well, you just need an emergency room. That's where most patients are going to come in. We want that to, be a very efficient department, because they'll often send people to the other departments. So this is really, in some ways, the clinic, you could say, where people walk in and get treated one way or the other. If they can't be treated on a sort of an outpatient basis, they usually get sent over to surgery or one of the other departments. But in any event, we need to start building. So let's talk about the layout of our hospital. And it'll be a little hard for me to show you, the exact layout. So what I'll probably do is just build up a little bit without you guys and then come back and explain it. That'll save a little bit of time on the video. And again, it's pretty flexible. I would recommend that you try to keep things somewhat close, because the further they have to go to move patients, or if patients have to go to certain places, it'll take them a little longer to get there, though I'm not sure that makes a huge difference. So let me pause the video for a couple minutes here, and I will be back when I have what I consider my basic starter layout set up. Okay, back again with a little bit of a layout, and I'll describe to you what I did. So I made an area that was 30 by 30. That took up a lot of money, $48,000 or something like that. But the reason I did 30 by 30 is because I want to make each area that I'm going to have rooms 6 deep. So this will be a room here. We have 6 deep this way, and then 6. So this is 12 total, so it's like 2 6s. This will give us some nice place to put, let's go over to here. In our emergency department, we need some doctor's offices. So this will give us a nice area to put doctor's offices. Here, we might as well plop them down now. And we could just go right across, and we'll just go here. I don't know, can you go right across? I never did that. There you go. So there's our doctor's offices that we're going to need. We don't have the equipment in there yet. We're going to need a waiting room. So what I did was left a little area over here. So we'll go 6 out towards our hallway, and only 4 wide. And we're also, not waiting room, sorry. We're going to put our waiting room right here. A little bit bigger waiting room. We want reception to be right here. So we'll go over that. Sorry about that. So there you go. So we're missing equipment. Don't really need any equipment, I guess, for the waiting room itself. Now, if we click, the nice thing about this game is it brings you right to the things you would consider putting in that room. So if we click on a doctor's office, it shows us here what we need. This yellow is optional. However, really, in some ways, it's not, because you're going to have a desk to put the PC on. So in any event. And again, I left another area over here in anticipation of, I know we're going to need some of these other rooms once we get the hospitalization actually working for the emergency department. So we're going to need a regular ward and a high care ward. And anyway, this is 6 deep, so it's all 6 deep. One other thing to note is when I first started out, I was using these white walls everywhere, and they're fine, except for you can't, the color of them doesn't change. So if you notice, I went to this wall here because the bottom color changes. So it really doesn't matter what you put, but since red is the color of our emergency department, I figured, well, let's put these in red, and then you can see which rooms that you more or less put in red. Sometimes the rooms are next to each other. It's a little hard, but this gives us an idea of where our emergency department is. You can do it with the floor tiles, but the floor tile colors are a little bit like this red is in some ways more like pink. I guess you can go with the dark colored tile. So you can colorize the rooms, which I like to do. So like, in other words, I don't know, for whatever reason, we could put like doctors as blue. So we can come in here and say, well, any place that the doctors stay, we're going to put in blue. Any places that the patients would stay, we may put in a different color. We also have these woods that don't change. So for whatever reason, I've put the laminated flooring in like waiting areas. And eventually, if we have like a cleaning closet or a restroom, I like to put those in the white tile. It really doesn't make any difference, but it does. I don't know. You put it whatever color you want if it makes sense to you. Or you just make it so it looks pretty. Whatever. It doesn't really make too much difference. So in any event, here we are. So we have to put in some equipment. And what we'll do, so each of these doctor's rooms needs a examining table. And we'll just set up one at a time. And I'll show you, we can do a prefab and copy it. So there we go. We got an examining table that we need. We're also going to need a desk for the doctor. And so we'll put in an office desk. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of room, like 1, 2. And we're going to put a printer. Now, if you notice, there's a cabinet underneath the one side of this desk. So we'll put the PC in first. Now, you'll notice you don't get credit for the PC yet because you're missing a chair. So once we put the chair in, see how those two are blue together? Like that means they're like a matching set. And that will come in other places, like sometimes a hospital bed will require things. But now that we put the chair in, the PC is actually lit. You could put the paper holder in, and the printer is certainly a lot more expensive. I don't know if it makes much difference, but it's the 21st century. I don't know. I'm sure there are doctors out there that write out prescriptions, but we go with printers in my hospitals. It's also not a bad idea for us to put a chair in because the patient will come and sit in this chair and talk to the doctor. In addition, I've noticed the doctors will even rest in that chair. So when we first start out, we may not have a common room for these doctors to go rest in. And I've noticed they sit in this chair and I assume they get at least some rest from that. All right. So in any event, so we need some more equipment here. We also need a door. So we'll come over here. If you don't have a wall, you can't put in a door. They're not necessarily freestanding. Again, you can use your doors to represent certain things. There's a couple different kinds of doors here. So we will, place this door probably right here. And again, these are all up to you. You don't have to do my layout. I found this one to be, a pretty efficient use of space and where it's not all too jammed up. So let's go back and we'll click on the room. So we need a biohazard bin. A lot of these rooms, I tend to do the same thing. Now, if you notice, there's an arrow. So we'll want to get that facing this way. And you'll also need a disinfectant dispenser or a sink. They both count as the same thing as far as this requirement. So watch, once I put the disinfectant in, and this has to go on a wall pretty obviously. So if you don't have a wall here, you can't place that. But notice how this requirement for the sink and all. I haven't noticed any benefit to the tall cabinet versus the shorter. As a matter of fact, as far as the shorter cabinet goes, and we'll put this, like, say, right here. What you could do with the shorter cabinets is put some of this stuff that's required on there. So we can come over here to the audio meter and put that guy right on there. Now between putting this cabinet and then the audio meter, we've probably saved a few bucks. You can also put like an equipment table here. And we'll put this guy like right here just because it seems like it's logical. And then we'll put this CRP scanner on top of that. So again, we've kind of got covered all of these things with a pretty efficient way. Now we need to have an eye test, which would be great if we could put that right here, which is one of the reasons I left this further off. So there we go. Now we've got our eye test. You can either go with these medical lights or the examination lamp. The medical light is more money, but it also sits right over the bed, where if we tried to put in this examination lamp, it has to go somewhere on the floor. Now, it would go fine here, but, whatever. I mean, you could be more efficient for this. Money is a little bit tight to get in the beginning. And so that's it. We've got everything that we need. I'm not sure how much it makes a difference, though. You do have to keep your people and whatnot happy. So I usually take a potted plant, put it right kind of where the doctor's going to sit. Now you can say you could probably make this room slightly smaller, but I think this is a nice little layout. Doesn't feel too overcrowded. And you can always put anything in any room that you wanted. The people tend to go, wherever they want. Like it's little, I imagine if you put a vending machine, people will come in the doctor's office to go to the vending machine. But so the big thing that I wanted to point out with this, and the reason we set just the one up, I don't know that I'll set up two until we get things flowing. Well, we'll set up the other one, but we're going to come over here to this prefabs button. And then down here at the bottom, we could come here and copy this. And then we could place an identical copy right next to it. I do wish that they would tell you how much it is without having to save it. It's not that big a deal to just use it like a copy and paste thing. Another thing that I find annoying about it is that we're going to need doctors' offices and other departments. And I don't know of a way, at least not with the copy and paste way I've done, that you can not have this be associated with the emergency department. So if I tried to place this same room in, say, another office for the surgeons, the doctors that need to be there for the surgeons, it's not going to work. But anyway, we're going to need two rooms pretty quickly. So there we go. So we just duplicated that room. Again, we'll come over here and we'll get some benches. Again, you don't have to fill all this stuff out. Sometimes you might I recommend that you make your rooms the size you want, even if you don't plan on immediately spending the money. So we will come here. Why don't we start in this corner just to be as efficient as possible. And we also are going to need this queuing machine. And I'm going to put it over here because it sort of makes sense to me to have the queuing machine and the info TV right next to each other. And you need a wall for that. But at the same time, we can also put, now because this layout will be similar, I'll put a fancy chair here. And I'll put two benches. So that fills up that whole wall with seating. And the other thing, people will definitely want to get some food at times. And if you don't have that, they will get a bit upset at you. Now, one of the annoyances about the game is that things get hidden pretty easily. So sometimes you want to build, like I like this build because you can kind of click on people, but if you end up putting tall cabinets, like you'll have a hard time picking out the patient. If we had a tall cabinet like right here, say, it would block your view of this chair, possibly. No, another good big trick. Hit Control, hold Control down, and notice it's selecting the thing on top of the cabinet. So if I do this, it moves the whole cabinet, this being just click on it. If I hold Control, it just selects the thing. That was something that was a bit frustrating at first. Same thing like over here. Well, see, in this case, I kind of have to select the one. I can't select that. I would have to move this thing someplace before I could move the trash can. But anything that's like a unit together, like if I want to pick the PC only, I'm holding Control, pick the whole desk. There you go. All right, so we have a waiting room, and we also are missing equipment and staff from our, from our reception area. So this reception area is a little bit goofy. But I'm going to come here. One of the reasons I made it 4 wide is so I could put a reception desk here. This is the left side. And then we'll do the right side. I have not found, that you need much more than one. But again, you could probably go. But this would give us the option for 2. So there we go. So we got a PC for that person. And also doesn't hurt to have at least a couple benches for them to wait at. We'll even make it look like they're going to come out here and they can sit in a fancy chair and wait. I don't like to put them right next to here because they come and stand here to talk to our receptionist. So I hope all that makes sense. Now I've clicked over to the management. Now that we have some things in place, you can see we don't have a restroom, and that's still red. So that's going to be a little bit of a problem for us unless we get that fixed. So what I plan on doing there is, restrooms are important. It's definitely important to have them close because people will go to them and the doctors will go. So for now, let's see if we can't work out where we would put a restroom relative to this kind of corner, which, we want to make sure we can get into each of our rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a wall. 1, 2, 3. You don't need a big... I've never had... Though I'm sure when you got bigger, you might need more. Any more need for like a 3x3 cleaning room. So we'll make a cleaning room right there. Now we want to make sure that people can get in. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 1, 2, 3. That's 3. This is where we'll have our restroom, and this is where we'll have our common room, just because it kind of fills out the corner. And common room kind of needs a fair amount of stuff. Now we can decide whether or not we want the common room here or if we want to take something from this room and move it into there and save a little space. But let's come back to here. And we're going to go to cleaning room. And we're going to make that a... Oops. Why did that not work? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm clicking on common room needs to be bigger. I was going to say cleaning room doesn't need to be that big. Yeah, one of the problems if you make a room too obtuse, like if I tried to come here and start my common room, I can't. So there we go, common room. And let's just see how it goes. A lot of times you can just zone out your area, and then you can kind of see what belongs in there. So we'll come over here and do a restroom. Now the restroom needs walls, and this is a little bit goofy. I've seen people jam it up in a few videos that I watch, but I like to make these too deep. No real particular reason, other than it sort of looks a little more like a lavatory stall. And we need to put a wall across the front here. And let's get some doors going. So we have these water closet doors, so we can come up here and go boom, boom, boom. So now we'll have 3 of those, and then I don't know. I think a bathroom door shouldn't have a window in it. And this is pretty much the only one that doesn't have a window in it. So we will put that there. And we will take with the door, I think other doors should have a window, right? So there we go. Access to our common room. Access to our cleaning closet. So now we have these things. So now we're missing some other things. But again, if you click, it'll tell you what you're missing and what you need. So we actually need toilet. We'll do 3 of them, which means we should try to get in at least 2 sinks, I think. Let's spin that around. Sometimes it helps to move things out where you can see which direction they're facing. So we don't want it right here blocking the door, but we can go 1, 2, 3 and have 3 sinks for people. On the other side, we can have 1, 2, 3 hand dryers so that there's no conflict. You can get a good number of people in and out with that. Just because, I don't know, every trash can or every bathroom should have a trash can. We'll put one of those in. And I imagine they'll be happier if we give them a mirror. I don't know if that's true, but bathroom quality does seem to be, you'll see when we look, if we hover over here, it'll tell us, the overall status of each department. We don't really have departments yet. Our prestige is something that draws more people in, so you want to try to keep this high. But if we then click on, by the way, you can click right here. If you already have emergency selected and you select this twice, it'll take you right to there. So like, for example, click radiology, but if I'm in play mode, and I click radiology, I go right to it. So we'll go back to play mode, click that, nothing happens, but then I click it a second time, it brings you right into this mode. And you can see what's going on. So we're still missing equipment over here. We're missing staff here. So let's come over here to this missing equipment. And we need to get just a shelf. Shelf is what hires people. The bucket cart, I always put it in here. And I think the idea is that they take it with them and then they don't have to come back. I don't know. But then they end up like putting the cart down here and going way up there and cleaning stuff. Speaking of cleaning stuff, boy, I'm hitting you guys with a lot. Sorry. I hope I'm not talking too fast. There's, like I said, there's just a lot of little stuff, which is, hey, if you enjoy a management game, this is what it's about, right? All right, so let's go. So we got a cleaning closet with all the stuff we need in it. We don't have staff here. We don't have staff here. We don't have everything we need in the common room. So I'm going to go ahead. They will climb over each other to sit in the chairs. By the way, if you notice, this will kind of auto spin. Like if I turn this 90 degrees and then come back over here, if you do have something that's required, you know, like a chair, it'll spin itself in place. So there we go. We needed a chair. Now you need a sofa. So why don't we put that right here? And these things don't need to be logical. As far as, you know, you could put your table over here, even though your sofa's over here, but I don't know. I imagine that you get a bigger bonus for having a TV than a radio, so I rarely ever put the radios anyplace, though I have just because, there you go, why not? Again, I don't, it's a little hard to tell what bonuses you get from what thing, but there we go. So we have a little place for them to sit down. They can come over here, sit here. We are going to need a bookcase, so why don't we put that by our TV? And we are going to need a locker, which could go next to our bookcase. Now, by the way, see how I put something tall here? If there's somebody standing at one of these, you're not going to be able to pick them, but you're really, well, you know what? We may move that because, yeah, let's put that over here because I don't think we'll block anybody. Because a lot of people seem to fall out in my bathroom with this layout. This is pretty much exactly what I did last time. You'll see a fair number of patients come in, and before they start getting treated, they end up passing out in your reception area. So, all right. Well, anyway, we still need a couple more things. The cabinet with drawers, you cannot put a sink on. So try to pick a cabinet with the doors, and you can put the sink on it. Now you could do both because we need two. One's going to be for our coffee machine, and in my opinion, coffee machines belong fairly close to the sink. And then the last thing we're going to need is a refrigerator. And in light of not blocking things too much, why don't we put that refrigerator over here? Plus, you know, it kind of gives them a nice way in. Because this is a rec room, I definitely want to put a plant in it. Let's put a yellow potted plant, right? And that can just go there. I don't know if there's a bonus if you were to put two, right? But there we go. We have a fully functioning common room. Certainly good enough for now. And because we decided to do that, there we go. I was always putting walls around my entire thing. I don't know that you really even need them. It doesn't seem to make any difference. Like, you know, right now our hospital's not enclosed, and you spend $10 a wall section. I mention that because, well, now we have this silly corner here. You know, I'm going to come along and destroy it, or, you know, and at first I was putting up these brick walls around the outside. Well, this is the outside now, but in the future, it may not be the outside anymore. And I was probably wasted a fair amount of money just replacing walls over time. But I did want to point out, now that we're in the wall section, you can delete, you know, you can delete different things. You can just destroy them. I want to delete the walls here. And there you go. So now whatever we do in this area, which will probably be our lab, we're going to need a lab very quickly. As a matter of fact, it's really probably worth us doing it right now. So labs need to be fairly big, especially if you want. So we're going to do 5. Well, do we stay with the 6 thing, or it doesn't make too much difference the width-wise. You know, we got the 6 here. So we're going to tuck some stuff over in this corner. So we'll start building out this way. And if we don't need it, we can always come back, and it doesn't cost anything to de-zone portions of that. So if we click on Stat Lab, what I definitely want to do is get it set up so that two people can coexist in this. So let me put one of these here and one of these here. Now, one of the things that's works out pretty nice about this, even though it's, I don't know, I wouldn't want to work that close to anybody in real life. So we could put a PC here and then another one here. These desks don't matter. They don't have anything underneath of them that would stop somebody's from going in. Unlike the office desks, it sort of matters what side you put things on. And let's go to office chair. So see, these guys will climb over each other. You know, I mean, you can jam things up like this, no problem. However, you know, obviously you might have issues at some point. So with, yeah, anyway. All right, now we need a door. By the way, this is not a door. All right, so watch out. This is like a glass wall, which is, you wonder why it's not in the wall section. I guess it's considered like a window because it's glass. But at first I put these in. It didn't work out too well. So I'm going to put this door, it doesn't make too much. Let's put it right there just so I can see it a little bit better. And again, our people are facing the other way. So we'll come back and click on here. So we need a biohazard bin. So we'll try to shove that here. And we're not going to need a disinfectant there, so that's good. But we're going to need some other stuff. I don't know what's best as far as having two people in here. I don't think you need to have a duplicate. If you come over here and find the lab. Oh, is there only one? Oh, let's click on the right thing. So if you come over here and look at the stat lab, it's set up. Oh, that's the big one. Even if we look at is there another default one that's not so big? No. Yeah, so if you look, this is what I was talking about earlier too. Like if you look at how much more stuff they have glass walls, and I'm sure all that makes sense. If you're going for aesthetics, this is certainly a better layout than mine, right? But at the same time, it just seems like, I don't want to say a lot of wasted space, but you know, at least some wasted space. So anyway, when it comes to what we put in here, I think that only one of them can do one experiment. So if you anticipate that certain things will be, you know, like they both might need to run the same machine, you'll get more efficiency if you duplicated all of the equipment. I don't want to go that far, but we're going to duplicate maybe probably some of it as it fits in, you know. So we need sample storage, and I think we should probably go with 2 sample storages. And I don't really want to block the view. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, that's fine. So we're going to do 2 sample storages just because it seems to make sense. We'll do a lab sink here. And we'll do, what else do we need? We need to get some lab desks. Yeah, this will be a tight little lab, so let's just go there because I want to put the centrifuge here. And we'll get a couple more lab desks. Let's turn this one this way. This one this way, and then we can even do another one here. All right, so we need glassware. So we'll put some glassware there. We need a hermetology analyzer. Oh, we didn't get some lab shelves in. So we'll put a lab shelf here. And you know what? I think we could shove another lab shelf there. I'm not sure what benefit each one has 100%, but let's do a microscope here and a microscope here. Now, do we need to spend all this money initially? No, you might be better off waiting. Now, again, are certain tests more common? I don't know. But we've kind of jammed in, I don't want to say everything we could. I mean, we might, you know, if you're a Tetris player, you might do better than I did. But we've got duplicates of some stuff. Certainly makes sense a microscope would be used a lot. As far as the regular equipment goes, we just got one. The lab equipment kind of stuff and the storage seems like you might use it a little more often. But there we go. We have a stat lab one way or the other. All of our requirements are met over here, and we are in good shape. All right, so let me come back over here and see how we're making out. The only thing we don't have is a corridor, and it's not required. But what you want to do with your corridors is make it, this will make it part of this department, so our cleaner will actually come out and clean this. Otherwise, what happens is they don't. Now, if we do this, we end up with 2 corridors, if you notice up here. And I'm not sure what the benefit to that is, other than maybe they clean a room at a time. And, do you want them not going all the way? Maybe might be one of the reasons they go all the way to the end and leave their bucket here. Maybe we'll even try that over time. I'll keep an eye. So having 2 separate corridors, do they bring their bucket up here and then just clean the one corridor and then bring the bucket here, clean this corridor? So we'll see. In any event, we have all of the rooms that we're allowed to build at this point. We don't have any doctors, so we still have a cautionary sign here. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a doctor. What you want to look for, in my opinion, is you want to get good doctors, but you can hire not so good ones. But we want to at least get one that's particularly good at whatever the task is. Now, you can have a chief doctor. The chief doctor will start training other people to be similar to him or herself, if that makes sense. So if we hire this guy who's in anesthesiology, we'll end up getting, a doctor who, he'll start training people towards what he or she is good at. So we don't necessarily want that in this particular case. What we want is there's an advanced diagnostics. So since we don't have that, what I think I'm going to do just to get going is get James Wright here. Boom. So now once we hire him, then we can get patients in. And just because one of the things you really want to do is get people in to see the doctor as fast as possible so the tests can get over to the lab as quick as possible. You really want people as early in the day getting done, even if these guys are sitting around at the end of the day, because you'll find that it'll keep you getting patients pushed to other departments and they won't end up leaving at the end of the day. Now we're going to come over here to nurses. Sometimes it's like we can't hire a nurse right now because none of these people have the required skill receptionist. None of them have that. And we're not really going to hire any of the nurses. Sometimes you can hire people. Now, one of the things also to say is if there's a specialty that you're going to need, like medical surgery, that won't always be available on this list. So if we were able to hire a nurse, it might be good to hire the medical surgery one, knowing we could move them to a different department later on. Doctors end up, we can also come down here. This is our, why can't I see because it's probably because it's paused. All right, let's go back to the department. There you go. Well, now that I'm on the department, it lets me open it. So you can see we have this guy as an emergency. If we go to the nurses, which we don't have any, you'll see it's just more about patient care. But this is a person that we would want to use in a department where we had surgeries going on, and it's actually required. There's also doctors with the anesthesiology. Let's come here. I think we had a couple of them. So you're going to need an anesthesiologist and, one of these people. So I might, if this, this person's good at general medicine and acute medicine, there's not going to be a surgery department. I know that in the emergency department. So we're not going to need an anesthesiologist. So you're sort of wasting your money if you're paying extra for that specialty. So that's why we just went with the regular doctor. But as a matter of fact, we're going to get an intern, which is a little bit of a risk, but she or he will improve. Is there any difference? Yeah, she's a little bit cheaper. Look, wage disparity. Yeah, I'm not sure. And again, it's because she doesn't have hidden traits. You can click this button and you can see that. But I can even see right here, this person's slow. So even though they have 2 hidden traits, this is not a good visible trait. where this one is fast, which will make a difference as she puts around to go poo and do other things. Uses free time to study, so she's our girl, no doubt about it. Let's get rid of this. And again, we can't hire a receptionist. This will update automatically at certain times during the day. I never really paid that much attention. Certainly, I would look after midnight. So we won't have a receptionist to get started. That's okay. It's not going to be that busy. And we're not going to have a cleaner to get started. But we will take a look over here and see. Now, see, some of these have specialties too, but we don't need the cardiology trait at this point, and it may be a little while before we get to it. So I think I'm just going to get, the best biochemist that I can. Oh, look at this guy's 98%, 121. And he's not slow. See, this guy's slow. You do want to pay attention to this guy has a commute, so they might end up being late for work, which it's not always the end of the world, but you do want these guys on top of it. I mean, they're going to be one of the bigger holdups is getting stuff through, through these labs. People will spend a lot of time waiting for these tests to get done. So even though this guy's only a one microscope guy, he's, really, kind of the best candidate because this guy's good, but he's in a different department. We're going to pay 3 times as much for him. There you go. So John Garcia is now that. So we're really pretty functioning well. It's a shame we can't hire anybody for over here, but I think we're in pretty good shape for getting our first day going. All right, so let's go and take a look at. One last thing to mention. This is how many people are in the department. I wish this is because this is so critical to get people through the lab. I wish there was some way to see more information about the status of like what tests are they waiting for, or that kind of thing. I mean, certainly at a glance it would be like I wish when we were here in the play mode we could just hover and see how's this lab doing, because when we get a lot of things going on we're going to have to pause the game effectively, because every time you come here the game doesn't move forward, and go look for this number. It would be nice if there was some way to view that more quickly. Let's put a wall on there, just because it belongs. All right, and then we'll, I think what I'm going to do is I want to cut the video here and probably call this something like, the getting started. And I think I've waffled on long enough about this, and we've got what I think is a great beginner layout. And the next thing we'll do is come back and talk about, how patients come in and out. The same basic premise I would use on all of our different departments as far as 6 wide. I think, you end up with some rooms that are a little bit wasteful, but you can see we were really able to jam a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of what I did here as far as buying all this space is just for what I know we're going to do in the next episodes as far as once we unlock the hospitalization here, we're going to need certain rooms, and I know I have a general plan where those things will go. A little bit of dead space here, but eventually, oh, wait, you know what? Most important, let's put a door to our hospital. How does that sound? And by the way, that's why I left this like I did 4 wide, so that, there's no question. That's exactly why. If you look, it's off a little bit, but then really this room doesn't, the reception doesn't need to be big. But you will see people sit here at times, and obviously we'll probably throw some more benches in as time goes on, jam them in here. But there you go. So we'll probably end up putting an elevator right here, and eventually down the road somewhere, in the middle, the elevators get used. Again, you want things the shortest walk as possible, and as we expand up, this will put anybody who's coming in a quick walk to the elevator. Patients, well, we'll talk about that in the next video, how the flow of this is also fairly well thought out. I'm sure you might be able to make it a little more efficient, but this is a good sound start, I would call it. All right, well, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video, I hope. Have a good day and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.